Good morning, dear students. Hope you are all doing good and staying sane. This is Malati. Welcomes you for Edista video session for Class 10 Science Biology Chapter 9 Heredity and Evolution Part 5. So in the previous session, we had discussed about evolution by the stages like evolution of eyes and evolution of feathers and also about artificial selection and all. So in this session, we'll be discussing about paleontological evidences and the human evolution. Let's get started. First, paleontological evidences. It's about fossils, right? So, study of fossil is known as paleontology. And fossils are the preserved remains of dead plants and animals that lived in the remote past, right? So, fossils provide evidence for evolution. Sometimes, dead organisms get covered with the silt and the sand, which slows down the action of decomposers. Generally, when organisms die, their bodies decomposed, isn't it? But when some of its parts do not decompose, it will be preserved. So the fossils occur in the sedimentary rocks. So the fossils provide direct evidence of evolution. Understood? So in order to get a clear-cut idea, let me give some examples about a fossil bird. So fossil bird called Archaeopteryx, which lived in a Jurassic period of about 180 million years ago, had feathers similar to the bird's structure as well. So here the Archaeopteryx looked like a bird, but it has many other features which are found in the reptiles as well. Like reptiles, it had a tail, teeth in the jaws, and like birds, it had a feathers, fused bones, beak, and wings modified from the forelimbs. And the fossils of Archaeopteryx showed the characteristics of both reptiles and the birds, and thus indicates a link between the reptiles and the birds as well. So this is because Archaeopteryx has feathers, wings like those of birds, but teeth and the tail like those of reptiles as well. So Archaeopteryx is therefore a connecting link between the reptiles and the birds as well, and hence suggests that we can say that birds had evolved from the reptiles. So fossils provide evidence that the present animals have originated from the previously existing ones through the process of continuous evolution. Clear? So next, let's see about how fossils are formed. Usually, when organisms die, their bodies will decompose by the action of microorganisms in the presence of oxygen and the moisture content present in the soil. Sometimes, due to the absence of oxygen or the moisture content in the environment, this will not let the body of the organisms to decompose completely. Such body parts of an organism will convert into a fossil. Clear? So, when we dig the earth, in many cases, soft parts of the organisms get decomposed, and what we get as a fossil is a skeleton of hard parts is nothing but the bones. Clear? And even the soft parts of the plants and animals which usually decompose quickly are sometimes preserved as the fossils in the form of their impressions inside the rocks as well. For example, if a dead insect get caught in a mud, right? If there is a dead insect which is caught in the mud, it will not decompose quickly. The mud around it, around the insect will set around it as a mold, gradually harden to form a rock and retain the impression of the whole insect. Clear? So this forms the insect's fossil, which can be dug out from the earth a long time later. So all such preserved impressions of the body parts of once a living organism are also called as fossils. Clear? Understood? Next. Now let's see about various kinds of fossils. So some of the important fossils which we are going to see now are the fossils of ammonite, fossils of trilobite, and fossils of dinosaur skull, Rajasaurus, right? So first let's see about the fossils of ammonite. So ammonite were the invertebrate animals like mollusk with the flat, coiled, spiral shell which lived in the sea. So it is estimated that the age of the ammonite fossils was about 180 million years old. So this means that ammonites lived in the sea about 180 million years ago. So next, another invertebrate animal fossil has been studied is that is of trilobite. right? So trilobites were the marine arthropods which were common between 400 to 600 million years ago. Next comes dinosaurs. So dinosaurs are the extinct carnivorous or the herbivorous reptiles. So the word dinosaur means a terrible lizard. The word dinosaur means terrible lizard. So the estimation of the age of the dinosaur fossil have told us that they were first appeared on the earth about 250 million years ago and became extinct about 65 million years ago. So it is very clear that we can even study about these species which are no longer exist by studying their fossils which are found while digging of the earth. Yes? Next. Let's see about how do fossils form layer by layer. So fossils records are help to know about the extinct forms like dinosaurs. Some fossils provide a connecting link between the two groups, right? So million years ago, dinosaurs living in that area died and their bodies were decomposed and buried in the mud. So this mud is also compressed into rock. Above the rock, which contains the earlier invertebrate fossils. So these are all different types of dinosaurs which were living in that area, were died and their bodies were decomposed and buried in the mud. So the mud is also compressed into the rock. So it forms a rock over the area containing the invertebrate fossils. Clear? Next, let's see how horse-like creatures get fossilized. Again, million years later, the bodies of horse-like creature dying in the area are fossilized in the rock above these earlier rocks. So much later, by erosion or water flow, wears away some of the rocks and exposes the horse-like fossils. As we dig deeper and deeper, we will find older and older fossils. So this tells us about the various stages of evolution and relative age of fossils as well. Clear? So next, let's see. We know that fossils are updated by digging into the earth. So now we are going to see the determination of age of fossils. So first, there are three ways of determining the age of the fossil. First one is a relative method. Next, by radioactive element and carbon dating. Clear? And here you can see these pictures. So these pictures shows that the fossilized remains of dinosaur being studied by paleontologists. Who are paleontologists? The scientists who study about the fossils are called as paleontologists. Clear? So first let us see about relative method. So this method can be used in determining the age of the fossils. About 100 million years ago, some vertebrates died and got buried into the seabed. Right? As a result of accumulation of sand and the precious sand, stones were formed. Later, after million years, dinosaurs appeared and became extinct. Even dinosaurs got buried in the mud. Right? So this relative method, when we dig into the earth, we can find fossils of different depth. Right? So the fossils which we find in the layer closer to the surface of the earth are more recent. The fossils which were found in the deeper layers are older, whereas the fossil found in the deepest layer of the earth are oldest one. Clear? Next, let's see about radioactive elements. So the age of the fossil is determined with the help of the certain radioactive elements such as uranium present in the rock. So you can see the coloration of uranium present in the rock as well, right? So the uranium in the rock disintegrate into lead with the passage of the time, and here you can see the different coloration, that is the uranium which is changed into a lead. That means it gets disintegrated into lead with the passage of time. So by calculating the amount of lead in the rock, we can approximately judge the age of the rock and the age of the fossil present in it. Clear? Next, let's see about carbon dating. So carbon dating, here the carbon 14 decays with its half-life of 5700 years, while the amount of carbon-12 remain constant in the sample, right? And you can see in the picture that fossils which we find totally were once living object. All the living objects contain some carbon-14 atoms which are radioactive. Later, when a living object dies and forms a fossils, its carbon-14 radioactivity goes on decreasing gradually. In the carbon dating method, the age of the fossil is found by comparing the carbon-14 radioactivity left in the fossils with the carbon-14 radioactivity present in the living object today, right? So, by looking at the ratio of carbon-12 to carbon-14 in the sample and comparing it to the ratio in the living organism, it is possible to determine the age of the formerly living things fairly precisely. Clear? Next, let's see about human evolution. So, it's a very important topic as well. So, there is no real progress in the concept of evolution, but anyhow, let's see one by one. More and more complex body designs of the organisms have been emerged over the ages. That means the only progress in evolution appears to be that more and more complex body designs of organism has been emerged. So, when a new species is formed, it is not necessary that old species will disappear or get eliminated from the earth. So, it will all depend on the environment. So, it is common belief that chimpanzees are the ancestor of the human beings as well. So, it is actually not true. Clear? Actually, it is not true that the human beings have evolved from the chimpanzees and all. So, actually, both chimpanzees and the human beings had a common ancestor long time ago, but the two offsprings of that ancestor evolved in their own separate ways to form the modern day chimpanzees and human beings. Again, it is not as of the body designs of older organisms were inefficient. This is because many of the older and the simpler forms of organism still survive on the earth. For example, one of the simplest and the primitive forms, life forms called bacteria, still inhabit some of the most inhostile or unfavorable habits such as hot springs, deep sea thermal vents and ice in the Antarctica. Right? So, the most other organisms cannot survive in such harsh environments. Clear? Human evolution has been studied by using the various tools of tracing evolutionary relationship like DNA sequences, that means determining the DNA sequences, by carbon dating and by studying of fossils. And there is so much diversity of human body and features on the earth that for a long time people used to talk about different races of human beings, right? So, human races were being identified on the basis of their skin color and named as white, black, yellow or brown, right? So, it is now known that the so-called human races have not evolved differently. In fact, there is no biological basis for dividing human beings into different races too. So, all human beings, whether white, black, yellow or brown, are single species called Homo sapiens. Understood? So, there's no biological basis to the notion of the human races and all humans are a single species. Clear? So, it is now estimated that by the research, the earliest members of the human species, that is Homo sapiens, came from Africa. So, irrespective of where we have lived for the past few thousand years, we all come from Africa. So, in other words, our genetic footprints tells us that we have African roots too. So, about 100,000 years ago, some of our ancestors left Africa while others stayed back. So, those who left Africa slowly spread across the whole earth. Clear? So, Mendel's experiment tells us the mode of inheritance of the traits from one generation to the next generation, and Darwin theory of evolution tells us how organisms develop from the simple to more complex forms. But neither of them tells us anything about how life originated on earth or began on the earth. So now we will discuss about the origin of life on the earth briefly. Yes. Origin of life on earth. In 1929, a British scientist J.B.S. Haldane suggested that life must have developed from the simple inorganic molecules such as methane, ammonia, hydrogen sulfide, etc., which were present on the earth soon after it was formed. So he said that the conditions on the earth at that time, that is including frequent lightning, could have converted from a simple inorganic molecules into complex organic molecules, which were necessary for the life as well. So these complex organic molecules must have joined together to form the first primitive living organisms. So Haldane also suggested from the theoretical considerations that life or living organisms originated in the seawater as well. Yes, the theory of origin of life on the earth was proposed by Haldane, was confirmed by the experiment conducted by Stanley L. Miller and Harold C. Urey in 1953. So they said that with the help of hot gaseous mass like nitrogen, oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, etc. So Miller and Urey experiment with the help of, they have tested Oparin Haldane hypothesis using the condition of prebiotic earth. So let's see. They assembled an apparatus to create an early earth atmosphere, right? So which was supposed to consist of gases like methane, ammonia and hydrogen. So that is in the absence of oxygen over water. So this has been assembled over the water with the help of these gases, and this was maintained at the temperatures just below 100 degrees C and electric spark before that. So it which consists of methane, ammonia, water and hydrogen has been stimulated with the help of lightning. So in order to provide lightning, it has been sparkled, right? So electric sparks were then passed through the mixture of gases for about 1 week. Understood? It's about for 1 week. At the end of 1 week, it was so electrodes has been provided and this electric discharge has been produced. So here when the methane, ammonia and hydrogen gas has been evolved and has been passed out through a container, and electric sparks has been provided with the help of electrodes, and spark has been discharged here, and the mixture of gases is also provided here, and this is kept for at least for 1 week. And at the end of 1 week, it was found that about 15% of carbon from the methane had been converted into simple compounds of carbon, including amino acids and sugar, right, which make up the protein molecules found in the living organisms. So this experiment provides the evidence that the life originated from the inanimate matter or lifeless matter like inorganic molecules. Clear? So far we have discussed about paleontological evidences, various kinds of fossils, how fossils are formed, and the 3 ways of determining the age of the fossils like relative method, radioactive element, carbon dating, etc. And finally about human evolution and the origin of life. So this is the last part of this chapter, and so this consists of 5 parts, you might have known. So start from the first, which starts from the hereditary evolution, and go through all the parts of this chapter as well. Compare these videos with your NCERT textbook, prepare notes of your own, try to create questions and find answers regarding. So better go through book back exercise and write the questions and answers in your classwork note. Practice to draw diagrams as well, and in fact you will be having online tests regarding this chapter as well. So prepare well. Hope you can do and you will. All the best, dear students. Thank you.